Hello? Yes, I need help. We've got a shark attack.
Sir, what is your location?
Sanji, off the coast, near the Hermitage Reef. Oh God, he's gone. He's gone under.
Who is gone, sir?
Mathieu. Sir.
There's a silent pact you make with the ocean. A secret agreement you sign every time you paddle out. You respect its power, its beauty, its raw, untamed fury. In return, it grants you a moment of pure bliss. A fleeting dance on the water's surface. A communion with something ancient and wild. But what happens when that pact is broken? When the ocean decides to reclaim its own? On a beautiful sun-drenched day, on a perfect stretch of beach in the Indian Ocean, that pact was shattered. A champion fell. A legend was lost. This isn't just a story about a shark attack. This is a story about a life lived on the edge, a community bound by the sea, and a sudden, violent end that changed an entire island forever. What you are about to hear is a chilling reminder that no matter how much you love the sea, it doesn't always love you back. On the idyllic French volcanic outpost of Réunion Island, the ocean isn't just a backdrop. It's the lifeblood. The rhythm of the waves dictates the beat of the island's heart, and no one embodied that rhythm more than Mathieu Schiller. Born and raised on this paradise, Mathieu was part of the very fabric of the surfing and bodyboarding community. From the moment he could walk, he was drawn to the water, a tiny figure with a beat-up board, chasing the perfect wave. He was more than a local talent, he was a prodigy. By his late teens, his name was known far beyond the island's shores. He had a style that was both powerful and graceful, a mastery of the waves that seemed almost supernatural. He wasn't just a surfer, he was a waterman, a true son of the sea. As an adult, Mathieu's passion became his profession. He wasn't just a bodyboarder, he was a national champion. His trophies lined the shelves of his modest home, testaments to years of dedication and sweat. But for Mathieu, it was never really about the accolades. It was about the feeling, the rush of adrenaline as he dropped into a massive barrel, the quiet camaraderie of waiting with friends for the next set, the simple joy of paddling out at sunrise. He ran a popular surf school, La Petite École de Glisse, where he didn't just teach kids how to ride a wave. He taught them to respect the ocean, to read its moods, to understand its power. He was a mentor, a big brother, a living legend to the next generation of surfers. His easy smile and infectious laugh made him a beloved figure in the tight-knit community. He was the guy you'd see at the local bar, sharing stories of the day's best waves, the one who always had a kind word or a piece of advice. He was the soul of Réunion's surfing scene, and his love for the ocean wasn't just a hobby, it was a profound spiritual connection. He saw the sea as a sanctuary, a place of peace and freedom. He would talk about the feeling of being completely weightless, suspended between the blue sky and the deep blue abyss, a feeling of absolute harmony. He believed that if you listened closely enough, the ocean would tell you its secrets. But the sea has secrets of its own, secrets it doesn't always share. And sometimes those secrets are sharp and swift and terrifying. He wasn't a reckless thrill-seeker. He was calculated, respectful. He knew the risks better than anyone. He had spent his entire life in the water, reading the subtle signs, the way the wind shifted, the color of the water, the behavior of the fish. He had seen sharks before, of course. They were a part of the ecosystem, a part of the environment he revered. He had a healthy respect for them, a quiet understanding of their role. But that understanding was based on a different time, a different ocean. An ocean where the balance between predator and prey was stable, predictable. An ocean where shark encounters were rare and fleeting. The ocean of 2011 was different. It was a new world, a new and dangerous landscape. And he, like so many others, was just beginning to realize how much the rules had changed. Mathieu was a man of the community. He volunteered at local beach cleanups. He organized charity surf competitions. He was a pillar, a rock for a generation of young people who looked up to him. His influence was immeasurable. When he taught, He would often tell stories of the old days, of the legendary waves and the legendary surfers who rode them. He spoke of the ocean with a reverence that was almost religious. He believed in its power to heal, to calm, to center a person. He saw the waves not just as a challenge, but as a conversation, a dialogue between man and nature. His wife, a local artist, often joked that he had salt water in his veins. She would watch him from the shore, a tiny figure against the immense backdrop of the Indian Ocean, and feel a mix of pride and a quiet, nagging fear. The fear was always there, a low hum in the back of her mind. She knew the risks, everyone did, but they were risks you accepted. Like a farmer accepts the risk of a drought, or a fisherman accepts the risk of a storm. They were a part of life on the island. But this new, escalating series of attacks was something else. It was a new kind of terror, a creeping dread that was beginning to overshadow the beauty of their lives. Réunion Island is a beautiful, lush paradise, but its waters hold a dark and dangerous secret. The coastal waters of Réunion are a known hotspot for two of the ocean's most fearsome predators, the bull shark and the tiger shark. These are not your average great white sharks. They are different. They are more territorial, more aggressive, and they hunt in ways that are deeply unsettling. The bull shark is a stocky, muscular predator, often called the pit bull of the sea. They are known for their unpredictable and highly aggressive nature. What makes them so dangerous is their unique ability to thrive in both saltwater and freshwater. They can swim far up rivers and estuaries, bringing them into closer contact with human populations than other sharks. They are ambush predators, often attacking from below in murky, shallow water where their victims have little to no warning. The tiger shark is the ocean's equivalent of a garbage disposal, known for eating literally anything that crosses their path, from sea turtles to license plates. They are massive, growing up to 18 feet in length and weighing over 2,000 pounds. They are powerful, relentless hunters, and unlike many other sharks, they are not shy about hunting in the shallows. They are often seen cruising close to shore, their distinctive striped bodies a chilling omen of their presence. For years, the local surfers had lived in a fragile truce with these predators. There were rules, unwritten and sacred. Don't surf at dusk or dawn. Don't surf near river mouths. Don't surf in murky water. But as the years went on, a change was coming. A chilling, unsettling shift in the delicate balance between man and predator. And the warnings once whispered were now screaming. The marine biologists pointed to a complex web of environmental factors, overfishing in the nearby waters, the destruction of coral reefs, and the creation of marine reserves that had unintentionally become shark hunting grounds. The sharks, deprived of their natural prey, were beginning to move closer to the shore, into the very spaces where humans played. Locals spoke of a palpable shift in the ocean's energy. It was no longer a place of pure joy, but a place of constant awareness, a subtle tension that never went away. The fishermen would come back to the docks with stories of seeing more sharks than ever before. Tourists, oblivious to the history, would paddle out with a naive, blissful ignorance. But the islanders, the people who had lived and breathed the ocean for generations, they knew something was wrong. The sea was angry, or perhaps simply hungry, and it was starting to look at them not as partners in a dance, but as a potential meal. The first signs were subtle, almost unnoticeable. A fin spotted too close to shore, a bait ball of small fish that suddenly vanished. But soon the signs became undeniable. The peaceful sanctuary of the ocean was turning into a hunting ground. The initial shark attacks were scattered, almost dismissed as anomalies. In 2011, a surfer was attacked and seriously injured. Then another, this time with a fatal outcome. The attacks were relentless, almost rhythmic. The island's government issued official warnings. But for the hardcore surfers, the adrenaline junkies, the lifelong watermen, these were just words on a piece of paper. They lived for the waves. They couldn't simply stop. The ocean was their church, their home. How could they abandon it? But the attacks continued, and the fear began to spread like a virus. The carefree spirit of the surfing community began to fray. Friends would look at each other with a silent question in their eyes. Is it worth it? They began to notice the strange absence of other sea life. The fish were gone. The dolphins were gone. The reef, once teeming with color and sound, was silent. Mathieu, always the pragmatist, saw the change. He saw the fear in the eyes of his students' parents. He heard the whispered stories of near misses. He had seen the scars on a friend's leg. But his love for the water was a deep, burning fire that couldn't be extinguished. It was a part of him, an organ, a limb. He couldn't just cut it out. He continued to surf, but he was more cautious. He would check the water's clarity, look for any signs of strange behavior. He felt a growing unease, a cold knot in his stomach every time he paddled out. It was a feeling that gnawed at him, a premonition of something terrible just below the surface. A countdown clock ticking in the deep. He started talking more to his friends about the risks, about the changes. "It's not the same," he would say, his voice low. "The energy is off, the water feels heavy." His friends, seasoned surfers themselves, would nod in grim agreement. They had all felt it, the unspoken tension, the heightened senses. Every splash, every shadow was now a potential threat. They had to be in a constant state of alert, and that took a toll. The simple joy of surfing was being replaced by a gnawing anxiety. There was an incident just a few weeks before. A friend of Mathieu's was paddling out and he saw a massive fin a few hundred yards away. It wasn't just passing through. It was circling. The friend didn't paddle away, he just waited, his heart pounding in his chest. The shark eventually moved on, but the encounter left him shaken. When he told Mathieu the story, Mathieu just listened, his face impassive. "It's a warning, my friend," he said quietly. "We have to listen to the warnings." But what was the warning telling them? To stay out of the water forever? That was a life sentence for a man like Mathieu. It was an impossible choice. The love of the ocean versus the fear of what was in it. And the love always seemed to win. September 19th, 2011. The day dawned like any other on Réunion Island. The sky was a perfect cloudless blue. The sun, a warm promise of another perfect day. Mathieu, as always, was at the beach, his home. He had a bodyboarding session planned with a friend, a quick morning surf before starting his day at the school. The waves were good, not too big, not too small. Perfect for a leisurely ride. They paddled out to a spot near the Hermitage Reef. The water was clear, and the mood was light. They were just two friends, enjoying the morning, sharing stories and laughter between sets. Mathieu caught a few beautiful waves, his movements fluid and graceful. He was in his element, a dancer on the water. Then the world tilted, the mood shifted, a sudden deep chill in the air. A sudden silence. The first shark, a massive shape, emerged from the murky depths, not with a burst of speed but with a horrifying, methodical purpose. It didn't circle. It didn't observe. It attacked. The first bite was on Mathieu's legs, a searing, agonizing pain. His friend, a few yards away, saw the flash of the shark's underbelly and the geyser of red blooming in the water. He screamed Mathieu's name. Mathieu, fighting on pure instinct, tried to paddle, to escape, but the force of the shark was immense. A second shark, then a third joined the assault. The water, once a beautiful turquoise, was now a roiling cauldron of blood and foam. The sharks were in a frenzy, a terrifying ballet of teeth and muscle. Mathieu's friend paddled furiously toward him, screaming for help. He managed to grab Mathieu's arm, but it was like trying to pull a stone from the bottom of a river. The sharks were relentless, pulling Mathieu back under, their dark shapes circling and lunging. Another surfer, a lifeguard, heard the screams and came rushing in, but the waves were strong, and the sharks were everywhere. They were a wall of teeth and fury, an impenetrable barrier. The screams were a mixture of terror and pain, a sound that echoed across the quiet beach. The people on the sand, sunbathers and joggers, watched in frozen horror. Some ran for help. Some stood paralyzed. The seagulls, startled by the commotion, took flight, their cries a high, frantic counterpoint to the human screams. Mathieu was pulled under. His friend, now bleeding from a minor cut, had to let go. He watched, helpless, as the churning water went still, as the red cloud began to disperse, and the ocean, the same ocean that had given Mathieu so much joy, swallowed him whole. His body was never seen again. The sun continued to shine, oblivious to the tragedy. The waves continued to roll in, washing over the blood-stained sand as if nothing had happened. The ocean, in its immense, terrifying indifference, had reclaimed one of its own. The 911 call was frantic, filled with the raw terror of a man who had just witnessed his friend being devoured. Emergency services were dispatched immediately. The local police, the fire department, the Marine Rescue Unit, they all scrambled. But they were responding to a crime scene with no body. When the first responders arrived, the beach was in a state of chaos. Surfers and beachgoers stood in stunned silence, their faces pale, their eyes fixed on the now calm water. The only evidence of the horror that had just unfolded was a faint pinkish stain slowly dissipating on the surface. A rescue helicopter was launched, a desperate attempt to find any trace of Mathieu. It crisscrossed the area for hours, its rotors beating a mournful rhythm against the sky. Rescue boats were deployed, their crews scanning the depths with grim determination. They found nothing. The police began interviewing the eyewitnesses. The accounts were all eerily similar. They just came out of nowhere. He didn't have a chance. It was a pack. The details were horrifying, the screams, the blood, the sheer violence of the attack. One witness, a young girl, was so traumatized she couldn't speak. She just pointed at the ocean, her hands shaking. The report was official and chilling. Mathieu Schiller was presumed dead, a victim of a fatal shark attack. The sheer finality of the statement sent a shockwave through the island. His family, his friends, his students, they were left with a devastating void. No body to bury, no grave to visit. Just the vast, indifferent ocean that had taken him. The police cordoned off the area, a grim reminder that this was no longer a place of recreation, but a place of death. The media vans arrived, their satellite dishes a beacon for the world's attention. The mayor of the town, a man who had known Mathieu personally, stood before the cameras, his face a mask of grief and exhaustion. He spoke of the tragedy, of the beautiful life that had been lost. He announced a new set of emergency measures, a total ban on all water activities in the area, a desperate attempt to stop the bloodshed. But the damage had already been done. A line had been crossed, a trust had been broken. The islanders were no longer just sharing the ocean with predators, they were now the prey. The news of Mathieu Schiller's death spread like wildfire, first on the island, then across the globe. The story of the national champion devoured by sharks was a nightmare made real. The media descended upon Réunion, their cameras and microphones a constant intrusive presence. The world watched, horrified, as a beautiful island paradise grappled with an unseen enemy. The attacks had been happening, but this one was different. This one had a face, a name, a life story. The death of Mathieu Schiller was the final devastating straw. The island's government, under immense pressure, took drastic measures. Surfing was banned in large parts of the island. There were protests, some calling for a shark cull, others arguing against it, advocating for coexistence. The debate was fierce and emotional. Fishermen were given licenses to hunt sharks, a move that pleased some and horrified others. The local environmental groups were up in arms, arguing that this was not a solution, but a symptom of a deeper ecological problem. The island was torn in two. For the surfing community, the loss was immeasurable. The local beach, once a vibrant hub of activity, was now eerily quiet. The surf school Mathieu had built was now a monument to a life cut short. The waves continued to crash on the shore, but no one was there to ride them. The silent beaches were a testament to the chilling power of the ocean and the stark reality of the shark crisis. Surfers packed up their boards and left the island, seeking safety on other shores. Those who remained were haunted by the knowledge that the ocean was no longer a friend, but a potential killer. An autopsy, of course, was never performed. There was nothing to analyze. But based on the eyewitness accounts, the forensic experts concluded that the attack was likely by a group of bull or tiger sharks. The ferocity and the pack-like behavior were hallmarks of these species. The conclusion was cold, scientific, and provided no comfort to a grieving community. Mathieu's family was left to pick up the pieces. His parents heartbroken, his wife and children left with a void that could never be filled. They had to come to terms with the fact that the ocean, the very thing he loved most, had taken him from them. There was no closure, just an endless empty horizon. They held a memorial service on the beach, 100 people standing in silent tribute, their faces etched with grief. The waves, a constant presence, seemed to mourn with them. A single bouquet of flowers was thrown into the sea, a final farewell to a man who had become one with the water he adored. The media covered every detail, every tear, every word of the eulogy. Mathieu Schiller had become a symbol, a cautionary tale, a martyr to the ocean he loved. The legal and political fallout was immense. The government was sued by the families of victims. Experts were called in to testify. The reports were long and convoluted, filled with data on shark migration patterns, water temperatures, and the impact of human activity on the marine ecosystem. But no matter how much science was applied, it couldn't explain the emotional void. It couldn't bring back the life that was lost. The shark crisis became a global phenomenon, a case study in the fragile relationship between man and nature. The story of Mathieu Schiller is a ghost story told in the language of the waves. It's a chilling reminder that no matter how advanced we become, no matter how much we think we've tamed the world, there are still forces of nature that remain wild, untamed, and utterly indifferent to our existence. The ocean is beautiful, it is life-giving, but it is also a deep and ancient force, a silent hunter that waits just below the surface. And sometimes, in a single, terrifying moment, it decides to collect its debt. The ban on surfing on Réunion Island would eventually be lifted, but the fear never truly went away. The surfers who returned to the water did so with a newfound respect, a constant, unspoken vigilance. They knew that the silent pact had been broken, and they knew that the ocean, with its endless depths and its ancient secrets, was a place where anything could happen. The chilling truth is, it wasn't just Mathieu Schiller who was taken that day. It was an entire way of life. And as the sun sets over the reefs of Réunion, you can almost hear the whispered warning on the wind, a ghostly voice on the waves, a quiet reminder that the sea remembers its own. And sometimes, it comes to claim them.